we have to have a decision and we have to stop changing it. Okay. And then the second thing, I'm just going to give it all away up front. And then I'm going to give you a ton of examples and we're going to talk about specifics. But the second thing is you have to have devotion to that decision. I really, really believe that without those two things, it is so, so, so difficult to get results right now. I think it has always been, but I would say more so than ever. And I also think it's harder than ever in some ways to like maintain our decision on something. Meaning to be like, I'm committed to this thing and I'm going all in on it because sometimes it takes longer and it takes a little bit more to be like, is this thing generating results? What does this look like? I also think that we are often like very quick to make a decision, which makes it harder to be really bought into it and have like devotion to that decision because it was sort of made rather quickly. And so then we're like, yeah, but am I sure? I don't know. And if I see, like, if I tell you what I see most in terms of like what keeps people stuck from actually getting what they want, it's that they really tend to shift between things that they want. And I think especially for women, because we are not like compartmentalized thinkers. We're not just like, I just want this one thing and that's it, right? And because we tend to shift, we also really often find ourselves in a place where, like, when we're really focused on this thing, we're feeling like, oh, we should be focused over here. And when we're focused over here, we're feeling we should change it over here. But for so many of my clients, like, this really is the like linchpin I see when they're like, nope, this is it. I am like growing this offer, or like, this platform is my thing, or whatever that is. It is so amazing what comes from that. But that like lack of sustained devotion to something is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, I think, thing that is keeping people really stuck right now. And it's really interesting because I put up this post today on Instagram about um uh like they call it the I wrote a post on an article, and in the article they call it friction maxing, and they're basically talking about how like it's really hard for a lot of people to tolerate friction right now because so much friction has been taken out of our lives. Like, so many things are just so much easier for us. And I think that's really true in business. And so the friction to like make a decision, stick with that decision, and stay devoted to it is very high. And if we don't have tolerance for some of that friction, it's going to be very, very hard to keep going. But equally, like, it really is the thing. I think that and this applies to almost anything. Like, this could apply to a platform, this could apply to business model. We're going to talk about all that in a second, but this could apply to how you want to grow. This could apply to like what you think your most effective skill set is in business, whatever. And I also think like it doesn't mean we don't have like some level of flexibility, but I really think that we often give ourselves too much grace around that in the online space sometimes. Or we use like alignment as sort of a bit of an excuse for constantly shifting instead of being like, listen, I have to know what I want enough to decide on it and get devoted to it. And if I don't know what I want enough to do that, the problem is that I don't know. And that's what I need support around. It's not to go try 50 more things. Do you know what I mean? Um, Lisa said, oh my gosh, I just asked ChatGPT to stop me whenever I say I want to change my offer strategy content pillars until September. And it really works. I tested it. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Hack, right? Tell your coach, tell your ChatGPT, tell your friends, everyone, like, make me stick to this. Um, and I like how you said September too, right? Because it doesn't mean indefinitely forever, which I think our brains get so freaked out about. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm like getting married to this thing. I'm choosing this thing for the rest of my life. And it's like, no, you're not. And by the way, even if you get married, you can get divorced. Proof. Right? But like, you literally are just choosing, like, okay, I want to go all in on this for whatever it is, 3 months, 6 months, 2026. But like, a lot of people really won't do that and they'll think it's their offer. They'll think it's their strategy. They'll think it's whatever. And it's like, it's literally the lack of a decision and sustained devotion to that decision, right? Um, Christina said, I will never forget when you did a live about the business or about a business of devotion, and devotion equals friction. Yes. Devotion creates a ton of friction, right? And so back to that article, if we're not in tolerance of friction, we will not be able to tolerate the friction that is required of staying with a decision. So I want to give you like a bunch of examples. So one of them I think is business model, right? I feel like it is so easy to think that you're going to pick one model that will be the easy model, one model that will just flow, and like you'll pick one offer that then everyone just comes into and blah, 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 blah. That does not exist, right? It really doesn't. What exists is one business model that you like enough to tolerate all the shit that comes with it, right? And it looks like deciding on that model and really committing to it for a significant period of time. So for me, like I think a lit up life is the perfect example of, excuse me, business model in the sense that I've had the same model for like 10 years. Well, I guess that's not true. I've been one-on-one focused for 10 years. I added partnership probably 2 years into that, right? But like there are plenty of friction points in doing one-on-one and having a partnership model, whatever. But I have had sustained devotion to that thing for 8 to 10 years. Like it would be almost impossible for me not to have a result at this point, right? Like, but that's the difference. Like, of course, me doing that for 8 to 10 years gets me what I want. And but most of us like can't even do it for 6 months. It took me, how many years was I in business before I hit 1,000,000? 6, I think. Right? It took me 6 years of that. And I'm not saying it has to take everyone 6 years, but it's like if you want to fast forward that, then you have to get even more indecision, even more committed, right? Like you have to be willing to be like, this is my thing, and I am going to show up for this decision because I feel like I made the right decision for me. And I think what most of us are like, what's the word? Actually getting caught in is that we're not trusting that we made the right decision for ourselves, that we're constantly swayed by hearing what someone else is saying or what someone else is doing or what's working for someone else. In fact, I've actually really noticed in myself recently, this is just an aside, but I really shy away from talking about the partnership model too much sometimes because I never want someone to be like listening to a live stream and then being like, oh, okay, well, that's the model I'm supposed to do then. Da, 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 and like almost like sending everyone off on a wild goose chase because I really do not think this model is for everyone. But then I was thinking about it the other day and I was like, fuck that, I'm not responsible for that. Like I can talk about it as much as I want. But the point is, when we hear stuff like that, and like when I talk about the partnership model, I'll talk about it with like a lot of certainty, a lot of conviction. It is the thing that's gotten me to 1,000,000 a year. It is the thing that I love the most, blah, 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 right? It will be so easy to listen to that and be like, oh, well, that's probably the answer for me. But it's not the answer for everyone, just like every business model isn't. You have to be able to make the decision of what's right for you. And then you have to have devotion to that decision, even in the face of hearing all these other great things, right? Um, Christina said this is probably the lie that got us all started. For me, it was making a course and then live life with your kids. Obviously, you can have both, but my model is perfect for me, but it's definitely not what I thought when I started. I think that's real. We got sold the dream. Megan said it's been so tempting to change away from Done For You because it's not scalable, but it is my thing. Yes, that. Lisa said, yes, I think our brains can operate quite differently. So I know I need some form of variety, newness, play, etc. But I think the thing is to give me those things in different ways. Exactly, right? Like you might be like, I could never just do whatever, one thing, like for that many years. I mean, honestly, I kind of think of like when I think of one-on-one, I feel like I get so much like variety, newness, play, interesting things because I'm like so deep in someone's business. But for someone else, they might be like, I would feel no sense of novelty in one-on-one, right? And like that's okay too. There's not a right answer. But there is a thing like Megan's saying where you just go, listen, the friction is that this isn't the most scalable thing I've ever done. Fine, I fucking love it and it's worth it. Like, and I'm gonna keep doubling down on that decision. What most people will do, like so unknowingly, because it's just everywhere in the online space and coming in all the time, is they'll be like, well, but I might as well try this other offer to scale. I might as well test this other business model that so and so thinks is going so well. I might as well da da da. And really, what most of it comes back to is like, I don't know enough what feels the best to me. And I don't believe enough that it's okay to pick the thing that feels the best to me to do that. Right. I really think that part matters. Like, What are you best at? What are you good at? And so then that kind of translates to like, what is your marketing platform? Like, this is just an example. I'm not trying to say this has to be true for anybody, but like for me, I am not a person that has a bad relationship with social or that feels really activated by being on social media or whatever. I can see from like a brain health perspective how like I don't want to just like get constant dopamine hits, but I'm usually not like, oh wow, I'm like very triggered by social. I am a lover of social. If you hear me talk about like TikTok, like I'm a lover of social. Okay. So for me, the fact that I've grown my business on social makes a ton of sense because I'm like a lover of social. Like I would use the platform anyway. I think it's really fun. I love connecting with people in that way. I find a significant amount of enjoyment from it or whatever. But some people will go, okay, well, everyone's saying that's what I should do, so that's why I do it. But they hate being on social, right? They're like, I don't enjoy this. I think this is all stupid. I don't feel connected to people in this way. I blah, blah, blah. And so in this one hand, they're going, this is the way I have to grow. And in this other hand, they're like, but I dislike so many things about it. And so they're constantly fighting with themselves and they're always changing their mind. Sometimes they're like, fuck social. I shouldn't even have to do this. I hate performing for everyone, blah, blah, blah. And then sometimes they're like, oh, but I have to get good at it because it's the thing. And they're in this constant tug of war and all of their energy is going to that tug of war instead of the devotion to the thing, right? Where, like, say they decided, actually, for me, I just don't like being on social. Like, I'm going to grow an in person, or I'm going to grow a business where, like, all of my networking is in person. They could take all of that energy and put it into growing that in person business, and it would probably do so much better for them than sustaining all of that intensity. And I want to name that it's different than friction. Okay. Friction is, ooh, I'm really committed to something and I'm like moving along that path. And now there's some rocks in the path and now the path's getting bumpy. And now, da, 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 but like that thing I'm moving toward in the path that I'm on feels right to me. When I'm constantly like, I wish I wasn't on this path. I wish I wasn't on this path. I don't know if I should be on this path. That's a really different thing. Okay. Um, excuse me, Megan said I can productize my service-based business to make it more scalable, but no one is talking about that. Yeah, totally. Esther said that tug of war is me currently. Thank you for naming it, Lisa. You're so welcome. It's really about the devotion. It's like, where are we putting our time? And so if you're like, okay, well, I can barely put any devotion towards social because I'm so stuck in that tug of war. What if I put that much devotion to like in-person networking? Would I get a better result from that? What if I did that for the next year? Could that change my business? I really think that's a huge part of it. For me, if you said to me, why don't you make in-person networking the thing you do in your business and you'll make $2 million next year? I would be like, oh, that is so cool. But there is no possible way for the next year I would be able to tolerate making constant in-person networking my thing enough to even get to the 2 million because it's just not as natural for me. I mean, like obviously I can be with people in person. I don't mean that, but you know what I'm saying? Like if it was like connect online and create content, this introvert is going to shine way more there personally than it would be to be like, I'm out at 3 networking events a week. Okay. It's just that simple. I probably would never get to that 2 million point because there would be all this fall off where I was like, I'm not going, I'm not going to 3 events this week or whatever. So we really have to be like, what am I deciding on? And then what am I constantly willing to put that devotion toward? And maybe you're like, I do love social. I just find it really frustrating. Cool. That's your friction. Can you handle it? Can you stay devoted even when you're feeling all this friction? Like that is the work. It's like you have to know the thing that fits you best. So that's where decision comes in. That's where all this stuff about like, what do you actually like? What are you actually good at? What actually feels good to you? What could you sustain for several years? What lights you up? What gets you excited? What is the business model that actually serves what you want in life? And then the devotion is like, and anytime anyone tells you the grass is greener on the other side, you come back to that trust in your decision. You come back to the fact that like you picked the thing that was best for you. You come back to the thing that lights you up, right? It's like they both live together, but they are kind of a step one and a step two. Most people stay in step one all of the time. And they just remake decision after decision after decision that they almost never get to step two, right? And step two is where all the results lie. Like the results are on the other side of devotion. So if you can never make it to step two, of course you're frustrated. Of course you're not getting the results you want. Of course you feel like you're constantly spinning and constantly working so hard and constantly like strategizing, but you're still back here. Okay. Um, One of my clients and I like went through something like this recently, and she just kept like say remaking a decision, and she would kind of like go off on these tangents and be like, yeah, but I don't know about this. And I would just kind of keeping like, yeah, but like I think it's just back to this one decision. I think it's still back to this decision. Hey, have you still kept the same decision? Like, are we still talking about it through the lens of this decision? And in many of those questions, she was very frustrated with me of being like, why are we talking about this again? Kind of thing. Like, yes, kind of like it's hard to have that pointed out. It's hard to keep getting brought back to like, but we still got to go back to step one and do that decision thing. But now that she's like more on the other side of that process, she has said to me like several times, like, thank you so fucking much because I needed that. Like, that was what I could not do for myself, which is keep bringing it back to that decision because it's just really hard to see when it's just us, right? And it's really easy to make up the stories of why this time is different. Like, yeah, I know I'm supposed to be committed to a decision, but this time there's a good reason. Yeah, I know I'm supposed to decide on the thing that I'm best at, but this time, this webinar changed my mind. Like, it's so simple to let our brains go down that path to be like, okay, but this time is different. And like, it's never different. It really isn't. Short of you having like a major, like life-changing epiphany and all of those things, like it's probably not that different just because like you heard a new piece of strategy or something like that? Um, and I really believe that like in the current state of the online space, that's what's making it the hardest. Hold on, let me refresh this here. I'm stuck. Okay. Can you guys still hear me? I think it's my tech that's having issues today, but I just want to make sure because I look frozen for me. So let me know if y'all can still hear me. Um, let's see. I don't know. Okay, but anyway, I'm gonna keep talking until somebody tells me otherwise, I guess. Although you wouldn't be able to tell me, so that was probably a poor thought, but we shall persist. Okay, so I think the biggest thing there is decision is step one, devotion is step two. It is really hard to have devotion without decision. Okay. I'm going to give you a relationship example of this. You're coming in loud and clear. Okay, perfect. I'm going to give you a relationship example of this. What is the number one mistake that so many women make in relationships? They go to devotion without decision. They treat this person that they haven't even decided, like, is their husband or is the one, like he's the one. They get so devoted to someone that they haven't even yet decided is worth their time and energy, is worth a lifetime of commitment, right? And then we don't ask for a decision from that person either, right? So we tend to do this thing where we skip right to devotion sometimes. And then we're like, oh, why does this feel bad? And the truth is because one, we can't really have true devotion without some level of decision. And two, because we're not even sure this is the thing we want to be devoted to. And so it's kind of going to feel icky and unclear and weird a lot of the time because we're not, I'm going to use this word now. I just like made fun of this word and I use it because we're not in alignment because our decision and our devotion are not aligned. We did not do step one before we got to step two. So we're just in step two, constantly being like, why am I, should I be this devoted to this thing? Right. And it's because we never did the thing from the beginning. We never were like this. So my like little story around this, I'm sure you all have heard me tell this a little bit, but I think it's so relevant here is so I had launched a group program 3 times at the beginning of my business and I had a successful launch. I had a big group and I was just like, even though the markers are there, this is not my thing. I don't want to do this. Like, this is not how I want to scale. And I remember talking to my dad and him being like, okay, well, like, who are you going to make off one-on-one? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Like, I think we're going to do 250K this year. And he's like, okay. So you're telling me that you can decide between doing a bunch of shit you don't want to make extra money, or you're telling me you can decide to do the exact thing that you want and stay committed to it. And you could do that and make 250K a year for the rest of your career. Yeah? Is that what you're telling me? And I was like, yes, that's what I'm telling you. Like, I was like ready for him to be like, oh, well, and he's like, do you hear yourself? And I'm like, oh my God, yes. Like, that was such a light bulb for me to be like, wait, I could make multiple six figures of money doing the thing I really, really like for the foreseeable future and let go of all this shit I hate because I think there's a promise that there's some like more cash on the other side of that for me. Easy decision, fucking done, like decision made. And then it wasn't until 4 months later that I even had the idea from for the partnership model. And I literally credit and fully believe the only reason the idea for the partnership model came is because I got so locked in on that decision for one-on-one and got so devoted to like, this is my thing. Right. And I think that that's what we miss sometimes too. It's like, it doesn't mean in the devotion, like a new idea won't come or like, Megan was saying like she could productize her business, couldn't get the word out. Like there are so many pieces that can come from this. It does not mean we have to feel so stuck in one thing forever. And it's just like could never evolve with us. It's just more like keep coming back to like what decision actually makes sense for you. This is so true. Thank you, Charmaine. Manali said, I feel like this has kept me stuck for so long, thinking I had to do all the things because it should equate to more money. Right. Oh, thank you, Hannah. I love how you embody this. Um, yeah, I mean, like, listen, I think it's really important to say for me, the 250K was very helpful because like that is like a very good like amount of money. Like it wasn't like I was like, oh, well, it's like 30K a year and like can I sacrifice like all of my wants, needs, and desires for it? Like I do think there's a reason it was easier to do at 250K. So like let me not um pretend that wasn't a factor. Like, right. It certainly was. And obviously we're also talking about 250K, like, whatever, 8 years ago or 9 years ago. Um, so that was surely a factor. Like, I think we definitely need our businesses to be like returning for us in a way that actually feels like good and supportive and sustainable and like all of those things. But it was just like realizing there was a tipping point then of like, okay, if that's what most matters to me, why am I chasing all this stuff that like, I mean, I love money. Like I don't like, it's not like I'm trying to like shoo it away. But if it was like, do the thing you love the most for this really good salary or do a bunch of stuff you don't like to double that, it just felt pretty obvious to me at the time. Like also didn't have kids then. I mean, there are like several factors, right? It was 250K, all of those things. But it just felt so clear. And I think that the online space just brainwashes us sometimes that like there is only one way to feel good in your business. And it's if it's unlimitedly scalable and you're making so much money, like you could never know what to do with it. Like, and I just don't believe that's true. I believe that that is the path for some people and that's awesome. But that took decision and devotion too in its own way. It's just really about getting clear. Like, I know I couldn't have made the decision to be like, well, I really don't love groups. I really don't love big community, but I'm going to decide to do it. And I know I can be devoted to it for the next 4 years. Like I just couldn't have like really made that decision for myself then. Like it wouldn't have, I couldn't have even like tricked myself into making it. Or I guess I could have tricked myself for a little bit, but there's no way that I could have sustained that. Like I just knew that enough to know I couldn't have. Um, Even just like how I'm built. So like I'm a generator. I need to be lit up. Like I just know I couldn't do it. And so um I think that's like ultimately where a lot of this comes back to is we have to keep going back to the decision of like, is this what I'm deciding on? I think about that all the time in one-on-one too, where like if there's ever something hard or crunchy or there's friction or whatever, I'm like, okay, would I be making a different decision now if I could? No, I wouldn't. This is it. This is like the thing. Um, Hannah said thoughts of knowing it's a decision of what's right versus making it because it's kind of scary. Thoughts on, let me, sorry, I'm going to process. Thoughts on knowing it's a decision. decision of what's right versus making it because it's kind of scary. I think what you're saying is like, how do you know you're making the right decision versus like it's just easier to not do the hard thing? I think it's about like what surrounds that decision. Yeah, like saying no to the group, for example. For me, with the group as an example, it wasn't like I was like, I wish I could run a group, but I have so many fears of imposter syndrome. Like, oh, I love group energy, but like sometimes I just don't feel like I'm not good at it. Or, oh my gosh, like my like literal dream is to be like on a Zoom with a whole room full of people and da da da. But like I just think that might not be meant for me. That would be a bad thing. That would be like, okay, our fears cannot drive this ship. Like, if that's what I want more than anything, it's my job to like go with the friction of working through my fears, right? But for me, that wasn't the experience. I wasn't like, I want the outcome so bad, but I'm scared of it. I was like, I don't even want that outcome. Like, I don't want to be on whatever, a Zoom with like 500 people in the room. Like, nothing about that activates me in a positive way. I'm not trying to have 5 group launches a year. Like nothing about that even really excites me apart from the fact that like it seems scalable and like high income producing. So um that's kind of the barometer. It's like, do I really, really, really deeply want the outcome, but I'm scared of it? Or if I'm being honest with myself, the only part of that outcome that seems slightly appealing is the money. And apart from that, like I'd really rather not do most of that. That is really what's telling. Okay, got it. You're confirming I want to do one-on-one coaching. This is saying awesome. That's awesome, Hannah. Adrian, oh, I'm so happy you made it. Ooh, my audio is crisp. That's amazing. I wonder why. I have to like go look at my settings now. Thank you. Um, what else was I gonna say? Oh, and then like the thing is like devotion pays you back in tenfold, right? Like when you're really in that thing and you're engaged with it and you care about it and you like want to like do it every day, you will get so much out of that. Like, yes, it will be monetary, but it will also be enjoyment, fulfillment, impact, purpose, like all of these things that actually matter so much and that also make us feel really fucking rich. um, and those things will pay you back a lot, which again, it just becomes this like self-fulfilling prophecy. You give the devotion, and then those things pour back into you so much, which means you keep giving the devotion, which means you're just in this cycle long enough to see it pay off, where you're just there enough to go, oh, yeah, it's really easy to make money now. Oh, yeah, it's really easy to keep doing this. Like it really does just become this snowball rolling down the mountain, picking up momentum and getting bigger and bigger. But like it starts with your devotion. And what a lot of us want is like our business to prove it to us before we give the devotion, right? Prove to me this is the thing that can make me all this money, and then I will give devotion. And it's really the opposite. It has to be like, I'm so good at and I love this thing so much. I'm willing to give it devotion because I'm willing to wait for it to come around. I'm willing to see all the other pieces come as the money snowballs. Um, Nova says I call it gush money. The best income flows from pleasure and alignment. I love that. Yes. Emily says, right. I think where we get hung up is wanting the outcome of the money and getting caught up in the options to get there versus staying with what we actually just love to do. Right. And I think what we see in the online space so often is that like we'll see someone that's just like making a ton of money, right? And they're just talking all the time about how their way to do it is like the best way. And it's not disingenuous. Like they really believe that is the best way. Like again, it's why I hold back on talking about partnerships sometimes. Because if you guys heard me talk about it for too long, you would literally be like, that must be the best business model in the world. I am going to talk about it more. That is like one of the commitments I made to myself. But and I wouldn't be being disingenuous and being like this. I really think that I have the best business model in the world. But it's really just because I've done the thing that feels good enough and then it's easy to compound that. Um, like one of my clients this morning, I was talking to her and she's high achiever. She's good at a lot of things, like all of this stuff, right? And we were talking about like her business has grown a lot in the last year. And were really talking about like what her next options are. And I'm like, well, it's so obvious to me this is the thing that you are the most lit up by and that you love the best and that you're the best at. Like it seems like we should just capitalize on that way more, right? And she was like, holy shit. I have been circling this for the last week and I have been thinking over this and I have been whatever. And I could not articulate it just how you said it. It's almost like I wouldn't just give myself that. But yes, you are correct. This is the thing that's easiest and that I enjoy the most. And like, why wouldn't I just do that? And I'm like, why wouldn't you just do that? But it's like we sometimes just won't give ourselves that. Like we think that that's not the important part. Like, how dare we build off of something we love? How dare we make that one of the defining factors of, our decision? And it's like, because it works. Like, it really does work. Like if you really pick the thing that you're best at and like doing, and you do it for long enough, it's really hard not to see those results flow. If you keep changing your mind, if you keep thinking you're not best at something, if you keep thinking you suck, if you keep going in and out of devotion, or if you keep devoting yourself to something because someone else told you to do it, like it's a much longer path. It's kind of like the simple answer there. Um, Adrian said he always inspired me almost 2 years ago to just focus on my one-on-one, and that made me so grateful because every other coach was not supportive of that. But it brought me back it bought me back so much time with creating things I didn't actually want. Plus, with the client retention, I took a long time off my marketing and spent that time with my family and had a roster of clients. So thank you. Oh, I love that. Oh, Adrian, that's amazing. Yeah, Vanilla, it's so hard for our brains. Um, Hannah says it's so true. If you do what you enjoy and fits your life, you can sustain it and actually enjoy it. Right. Like, I really think that's it. It is the sustainability factor a little bit too, right? Like, where, yes, you can make a lot of money, but like what most of us want in this space is to be like, I have a business I could run for the next 10, 20, 30 years, right? Most of us aren't like, well, I want to make as much money as I possibly can in the next 2 years and then burn out and then have to start over and like that's not actually appealing when you think about it. You're like, I want to make enough money for me, I'm like, I want to make enough money in the next, how old am I don't know, 15 years or whatever, and invest all of that so well that I can retire early and do whatever the fuck I want, whatever. But like thinking about what can I sustain and make good money out for the next 15 years is way more important to me than thinking about like what can I make in the next year? Like, sure, that'll like cushion that investment and all of that kind of stuff. But like if I spend the next year doing that and making a ton and then actually end up hating it and burning out, it's still not going to be more money than it would have been if I worked for the next 15 years doing something I liked. Like it sounds so obvious when we like state it like that. It's just hard for our brains. But like literally, when you look at the numbers, you're like, okay, well, if I made $1 million in the next year and then I like burn it all to the ground and need to take 2 years off, or if I made like 350K doing shit I like for the next 3 years and, feeling really good and fulfilled and like on purpose and not burnt out, like seems pretty obvious. Um, but again, most of that comes with first being really clear on the decision, then staying incredibly devoted to that decision. I feel like I missed a comment. Like I remember. Yeah, I did. I was gonna say, I feel like I saw Lisa say something about a content detox and just triggered. Okay, I heard you talk about doing a content detox years ago, and sometimes I come back to that for this exact reason. Otherwise, my brain wants to try all the different strategies people shove down my throat. Yes, yes, yes. So that's a great thing. Like a content detox can be a great piece of that. Like whatever you need to do to shut out the noise and be like, what is a decision I want to make for me? What does my devotion to that look like? And again, to go back to that relationship analogy, if you have decided that like this is your person and then you show up with the devotion of that, it's probably going to feel good. You're going to have a good relationship, but it's not going to feel without friction. Like your partner's still going to piss you off and they're still going to be difficult and you're still going to have hard seasons or even hard years. But like overarchingly, you're like, this is right. Like I would still pick this again, even though you're pissing me the fuck off right now or whatever. Right. And I think that's true in business. Like that is the exact relationship I have to my business right now is I would still pick you and you're pissing me off right now sometimes. Like that is like the most normal, healthy version of relationship, right? And I still love you and could name 100 things I'm grateful for and blah, 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 blah. Like that is okay. Like we aren't going to pick something where we don't have some version of that. But it's just being willing to be like, okay, I do want that like healthy version of it. I don't want the thing where I'm like, why did I even pick you? You know, that's so much harder. But again, devotion comes with friction in relationship, in business, whatever. We just cannot keep thinking that friction means go make a new decision. Okay. Friction, challenge, a tough day, a tough week, even a tough year does not mean go make a new decision. It might mean how do you need to support yourself? It might mean like what little things you need to tweak. It might mean are you processing this? Like there's a lot of pieces it could mean. It doesn't mean do nothing, right? But it just doesn't mean burn it to the ground every time. It does not mean like the model is inherently flawed. It's like if every time you had a challenge with your partner, you broke up with them, like that's not going to get you what you want long term, right? Hey, Lacey, good to see you. Um, so like that's our work, I think. Um, and I feel like for so many of us as women, it's just the thing we struggle with because making a decision based on what feels good to us and fully backing ourselves in it is not really something we're taught. Like it really isn't. It's just like I said in the relationship thing. We're actually taught to give devotion before someone's even earned it or before we've even decided that they should be the one we're giving devotion to. Like we are taught to give so much and expect so little that to be like, this is my decision. And it's because it feels good to me and it's because it's what's right to me. And like, that's all I'm willing to commit to and serve and show up for. Like, it really is not what we're conditioned for at all. So, like, as much as like it's really obvious when I say all this stuff, I do want to say, like, and it doesn't always feel obvious in our bodies and in our systems. Like, it can feel irresponsible or almost like even so out of reach. Like, I was telling you about that client this morning where it wasn't even like she had a story that it would have been irresponsible to pick that. It's just like her brain almost like couldn't reach for it quite yet. It just wasn't used to being like, well, isn't this just something you want to do? You know? So remember, like, it is really simple. I have to make a decision based on like what serves me best, what's sustainable, what I want to spend my time doing each day. And then I have to like really practice a significant amount of devotion to that decision. Simple, 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 right? And if I practice enough of that devotion and I stay in that decision, there's almost no way I'm not going to get a result on the other side of that. However, it's okay if that does not feel so simple in your body. And that's why we have coaching. That's why we keep reminding ourselves these things. That's why we get good reflection and good mirrors. That's why, like Elisa said, we tell ChatGPT, do not let me change my decision. Um, but like we do have to put some guardrails around that because it will not always feel that way. It will feel so self-indulgent. It'll feel like, how could we possibly? It will feel like, oh my gosh, results aren't on the other side of me like doing what you want, making decisions based on that. Like that is just not the narrative most of us as women grew up with, like at all. And it's why we're always shifting in business because we kind of grew up with the narrative that like someone else knows best, right? Be a good girl and do the right things. Learn what the right things are from somebody that's telling you what to do and who knows better than you. Like that really is like so much conditioning. Or I think for a lot of millennial women, it was like, you can do anything, go be everything, you know? And like we kind of had this model where basically we're just taught to like be perfect in every way. So anyway, I stand by decision and devotion being like the absolute game changers and equally. It's okay if it feels hard. It's okay if you're like, I get it in in concept, but in practice, it's harder than, you know, I want it to be. That's okay. Like that's the work, right? That's where you invest your time. That's part of your devotional practice is to be like, this is hard to stay in decision and devotion. And part of my practice is like working that edge all the time. But it's like really is where the results come from. I think that, you know, if one, even two, I was going to say one, but I don't even mean that. If two launches will make you change your whole business model or change your whole decision, like that is not the devotion we're talking about. If you would, you know, if what am I trying to say? Sorry, my brain is like malfunctioning. Okay, so what I was gonna say initially was to be like, if one launch is gonna sway you, like you are not in decision or devotion. But I would even say more than that. Like if even two launches are gonna sway you, you're not in decision and devotion. Like a lot of this is a really long game. And it takes being able to go through the couple launches to figure out what to do next. It takes being able and willing to like have a couple things that don't go how you wanted it to. It takes being willing to go, oh, I can see how like I said I was going to do that launch, but I didn't really have devotion to that launch and I need to rework that. Like there are a lot of pieces to this, but if you know that like one or two not ideal outcomes would sway your decision, go back to decision, right? If you're like, no, even two bad outcomes would not sway me from this thing, great, you're ready for some devotion. Does that make sense? Um, Thank you, Allison. Manali says, I think that conditioning is so strong and almost subconscious at this point. Totally, right? It's like that client. Like it's not like she was even like really recognizing what she was doing. It was so subconscious. But I think that's just part of our work then. Because if not, and it's subconscious, we're just always remaking that decision. So we almost have to be like, okay, cool. I can't keep repeating this pattern. Like I have to get to the layer underneath. So I think that's what I got. Oh, I wanted to give one example. I know I forgot this. Thank you, Elisa. I wanted to give one client example on this because I think this is such a good one. So this client, she is like the epitome of this thing. So when she started working with me, she was like, I think I might be really bad at Instagram. Like maybe I just need to like go all in on ads. And I was like, well, it doesn't seem like you've gone all in on Instagram. Like, what do you mean you're really bad at it? Like, sure, you could go all in on ads if that's what you prefer, but like it certainly, when I look, it does not appear that you have gone all in on Instagram. And she was like, you know what? I think you're right. Like, what would it look like for me to like really go all in on this? What would it look like for me to stop telling myself a story that I'm bad at this? And so she literally did. Like, and when I say all in, I'm talking like high level of decision, high level of devotion. She did not remake this decision once. And she was posting like 5 trial reels a day. Like 5 times a week, 5 trial reels a day, 5 times a week, right? If not more. Um, and she has grown so much. And she would never tell you now that she's not bad or that she's not good at it. She like recognizes that she's in fact very good at it. She was just really lacking sustained decision and devotion. And when she locked into those two things, like it has just now, did it go like that immediately? No, it took some time, but like once she really started doing it enough, she was getting a ton of data from those and she was seeing what was working. And then she was going and applying that and she was being like, wow, I'm actually really good at figuring out what's working and like doing more of it. And like it has just been a snowball. Like it has been so crazy. But it's so easy to tell ourselves we're like bad at something when really it's just like we just haven't been devoted to that thing. And also I share that example because I want to share what devotion looks like. Like she was making 5 trial reels a day. Like that's a considerable amount of devotion, but it also got her really fast growth. And so that's something to think about. Like a lot of us want to say devotion, but then like what we really mean is like we want it to come pretty easy. And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't, but like that's the thing to think about. Like I've had seasons where things have come to me really easily in business, and I've had other seasons where devotion meant like rolling up my sleeves and like really getting to work. Um, but like both matter. And so I think she's a really good example of someone that was willing to be like, okay, you're right. The thing I was missing was fully deciding on this and fully going at it. And before I go spend on ads, I actually want to give this a try. I mean, she's going to do it, or she is doing ads now too. It's not like one or the other, but she just was like, yeah, I'm telling myself that I'm like not good at this and I barely even tried, which I think is what so many of us do. And then trying looks like actually giving herself permission to try. I think our industry makes trying so wrong sometimes. Like, oh my God, if you have to do 5 trial reels a day to grow, like, oh, what even is that? Like, it's a growth tool. Like it, it really is. So anyway, I just wanted to give that example because that is where the results come from, but it also comes from the fact that she was like willing to stretch into that. So I hope that helps. Manali said this was so helpful to hear in terms of in a lower 2 months. Yes. Yeah. 2 months in terms of devotion don't matter. Doesn't mean it doesn't feel hard in the moment. Doesn't mean we don't acknowledge it. Doesn't mean we don't process it, but it just means like there's more to do there as it relates to the devotion and like what you need to shift. So thank you guys for listening. Thank you for being here. Decision, devotion are things. You can do anything else you want this year, but if you have those two things, you're probably going to get really good results. So thank you guys as always for being here, and I will see y'all next week.